Welcome everyone to the Squid and Ultimate Elite Fan Show. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Elite fan. Joining me as always, my winger, Ricky Squid Vaive. Squid, the golf day's starting to get a little shorter.
They are. We're playing a little bit later now
Yeah,
in the morning, which is kind of nice because
yeah.
getting up at 5 o'clock got a little old after a while. But I got what do I got? Tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. No golf
Oof.
because we're looking after our grandson.
Oh boy, that'll be a handful. You'll
Oh
be
yeah,
running back to the golf course on Monday.
absolutely.
Well, speaking of young kids, that was a good segue there, Squid. You set us up perfectly. The prospects and rookies start this week. The days are ticking by before the main camp begins. Hopefully, some surprises emerge even starting this week with the kids. And I'll tell you, the Leafs are banking on it.
Well, I think they're banking on it mainly because they have no other options
Well, that's what I
right
meant. Yeah.
now, Mike. And I mean, these guys got to either become NHL players or they're going to have to go out and find some because, and I'm not sure that these guys are ready to step in and be full-time NHLers on the blue line for the most part. And so they may have to go and look for something else.
You're right. And well, we'll get into that when we get into analyzing the team. But we're just talking about some of the news. I guess just breaking before we come on the air. Jake Gardner earlier mentioned that he'll be missing the season with hip and back surgery, which is unfortunate for him. And Sidney Crosby has just announced going to be out 6 weeks. He's also got a wrist problem. So he's probably having the same surgery as Austin Matthews because he's out 6 weeks too. So, but in the meantime, everything's starting to buzz at this time of the year. And although there's not a lot of news out there, one of the reports on social that continues to heat up about the Leafs interested in acquiring PK Subban. He's got 1 year left at $9 million in New Jersey. Now, obviously, there would have to be a major salary retention by the Devils wherever he goes. But all that aside, what are your thoughts on this player in blue and white?
No, plain and simple, no. I think I mean, one, he'd be a little bit of a distraction, especially
Yeah.
playing in Toronto where he's from. But I don't think he's very good defensively as a defenseman, to be quite honest with you. I mean, offensively, yes, he's okay, he's good. I don't think he's that good defensively. And the last thing you want to do on a team like Toronto is bring in a defenseman who all he can do is play offense. I just don't think that's a real smart move at this point. I mean, yes, it would be great for the power play, but that's about it, really.
Well, my concern is similar to yours. He's a distraction with all the antics away from the rink. The NHL, on the other hand, has been criticized for not having players with personality like the NFL, the NBA does. The players are boring. They go to the rink, they go home and play video games. PK certainly isn't shy from what we've seen on social media. Now, on one hand, it would almost be fun to watch the reaction of some of the stiff board members at Bell and Rogers waking up and seeing one of their players on social media wearing their girlfriend's bathing suit like he did after he arrived in New Jersey. But all kidding aside, his game has dropped significantly the last few years. My concern is this team is getting enough heat from the fans and media already. I mean, remember, they could do no wrong, Squid, for 4 years. Now they're feeling the wrath like never. And the other thing to think about, us elite fans, as a rule, are very forgiving. What team in existence has fans go on this long without a championship beside the Red Sox and the Cubs, and they both won recently? So no matter what this
Mm-hmm.
team does this year, won't mean lint until they qualify for the postseason, and then the eyeballs will be on them like they never felt them on them before.
Yeah, I got to agree. I mean, it doesn't matter what they do in the regular season. It has no, uh, thing. They got to make the playoffs, obviously, and then
Yeah.
they got to win a round, or they got to win 2 rounds in order to kind of get everybody back on track and on side, I guess, for a better way to put it. Because this team, I mean, they haven't won a playoff series in what, 12 years now,
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that. I mean, and these guys are
Mhm.
not kids anymore. They've been around.
Yeah.
They're 4 or 5 year pros in the National Hockey League, and now they have to step up and get the job done.
Well,
Now,
yeah. Yeah.
saying that, it's not an easy chore with the lineup they may have, because I think they're going to be a little bit short on the back end. Up front, I think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to be
Mhm.
fine up front. But on the back end, and then we don't know what's going to happen with the goaltending either, whether they're going to step up and get the job done or not. But the back end is my concern.
Well, I mean, again, as you just touched on, God forbid they don't make the playoffs. So the short answer
Oh,
on Subban is no. I mean, yes, as we talked, both agree he can add on the power play, but I think the risk is too high. I'd rather give the kids more ice and
I'd
assess what we have.
say I would just say a big no.
A big no. Well, I mean, think about it this way: the knock around the league on kids like Sandin and Lilligren are they're not good enough. Now, the outside shot is that Sandin has a possible chance to make it, but it's going to take some work. And they need to find those answers sooner than later because, as you mentioned, outside of that, they got four defensemen. And,
Yeah,
add another veteran that limits the ice time or limits the capacity for these kids to develop is not going to help the hockey team.
no, and I mean they got to play them. They got to find out if they're NHL ready, if they can survive in the NHL, if they can be good players in the NHL. And the only way you're going to find out is if they play. And and that's not 6, 8 minutes a game. That's 15 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
17 minutes a game. If they don't get that kind of ice time, then you'll never know whether they can play or not.
Listen, I'd rather they go after an unrestricted, still unsigned free agent coming off a subpar season, looking for a chance to rebound, or feeling like they brought Galchenyuk back last year. Even look at bringing him back as an insurance. I mean, they spent a lot of time on him. See if they can get a little more out of him. I mean, the bottom line is there are better depth options available and make it cheaper as the season approaches or even a few weeks into it.
Well, I think you're right, Mike, and I think they should concentrate on trying to get a defenseman who's been in the league for a while that knows how to play in the National Hockey League. I mean, up front, I'm not worried about. I think that Bunting
Yeah.
will slot in there pretty good, and they got a couple other guys they signed that are I think can
Richie
get
and
the
Pace.
job done up front. Richie, you hope that Robertson comes through,
We're praying.
becomes an NHL player. But on defense, I would like to see him go and get a veteran guy as well, and just then you can play one of the kids, like Sandine, put him with a veteran guy and say, okay, go and play, and then you're going to find out if he can play or not. But again, you can't play him 6, 8 minutes a game. You got to play him 15, 17 minutes a game in that range in order to really find out if he can play or not.
Well, we're going to find out very soon, and it's not going to take long because they cannot afford to wait and hesitate. So there's going to be some quick moves, I suspect, and Dubas will probably pull the trigger a little quicker than he normally would, just under the pressure the team is going to be feeling to move forward. So with that, we're now down to two final teams Toronto will face this year to analyze, and these last two are left last for a reason because they're going to be the bottom feeders. So let's start with the Detroit Red Wings. Man, I thought I'd never be saying that in our lifetime, but your initial thoughts on this club as it sits?
Kind of a tattered bunch of misfits, I guess, maybe the best way to put it.
Yeah.
But with Steve Eiserman running the ship there now, I
Mhm.
suspect that within 2 or 3 years, I think things in Detroit will be a lot different. That's just my personal opinion because he did it in Tampa. There's no reason why he can't do it in Detroit, and I think he will. But right now, they're just I mean, it's a tattered bunch of misfits right now. I
Well,
mean,
again,
they got rid of all their better players last year, pretty much, with the exception of
that's
Larkin
and Bertuzzi, and they just upped
and
him,
Bertuzzi. Yeah,
and they upped him.
yeah.
But these guys, unlike Ottawa, even at their lows, give the Leafs fits. So, number one, Leaf players listening tonight, we
Mm-hmm.
all know you listen. Can't take a night off against these guys because they will stick it to you. Because the one team they love to beat is Toronto. They all do.
Oh, they certainly do. And I remember the days when we used to play Boxing Day every Boxing Day in Detroit, and we'd play them. I don't know what nine, 10 times a season, and
Yeah.
it was always a battle. And they loved when they could beat us, and it was vice versa. We loved when we could beat Detroit because that was one of our biggest rivals.
Yep. Well, the key to this clubs is they don't make any progress. Then, of course, with them in rebuild build mode, all these players should be available for the right price. Now, as Leaf fans, and we keep seeing pop up on social media, you know they have all the answers in social media. The name that keeps popping up is Dylan Larkin. He had an off year last year, maybe due to a weak be playing on a weak team. But scouts have told me around the league the knock on him is no game sense.
Yeah.
No game sense.
Well,
It'd be comparable to
yeah,
well, hang on. It'd be just let me finish this one here. It'd be more comparable to polarizing ex-Leaf Jake Gardner. We're picking on now because he got hurt. He's out for the season, but who really lacked any real hockey sense. He rushed when he shouldn't have. He didn't when he should have. That type of instinct is essential with the game and speed of the game today. The plugger even has to think his way through the game. Larkin, it's thought, doesn't have that. So I would say he's an avoid. Now, maybe a change will do him good, but can the Leafs afford the risk?
yeah.
I'll guess no because he makes too much money. At a million or less, yes, you take a shot on a player, but at 5+, you can't afford the risk.
Well, I think he's not a bad hockey player though, Mike. I mean, I think his hockey sense is a little bit better than people probably give him
Okay.
credit for,
All right.
and he's a pretty good hockey player.
Yeah.
And everything I've heard and people I've talked to that say that Detroit, there's no way Detroit are going to move him, and he's there for the long haul, and he's there for the rebuild and everything else because they consider him to be one of the key pieces in moving forward in this rebuild. And I tend to agree with those people that, I think he's a pretty good hockey player. I think you surround him with some
Yep.
better players. And then I think, perhaps he'll show that, he can play and he can make plays and he can, he's in the right spot at the right time and that sort of thing. So then I think you'll see that his hockey sense will show through a little bit better.
Well, I mean, I
I
hope
mean, it's
so.
pretty. Trust me, it's very difficult to play when you don't have a whole lot of guys to play with
No,
that
you're
can't
right.
keep up with you or can't think like you can, and that makes it even more difficult for you to play.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, but I'm just going by what's being thought about, and I think he would be available for the right price. And I'm telling you, I think the Leafs, if they're looking for some veteran presence late in the season, try and pick off a guy like a Sam Gagner, a Mark Stahl, Nick Leddy, any one of these guys, which are not going to cost you a lot going back. And for a playoff push, if you want to step it up, who had limited play last year and didn't score a lot was Tyler Bertuzzi. If they are going for a whole rebuild, and it all depends on how Detroit's playing, but that being an expensive acquisition,
Yeah,
he's just making under 5 a year for the next 2 years.
yeah. I think those guys though are considered to be part of the rebuild, and they're the guys that they're counting on to be kind of like the core going
Yeah.
forward. I think throughout this rebuild, and I don't see them moving them at all unless the return is really good. I mean, unless the return is excellent, I don't believe they're going to move those guys.
Okay. Well, you and I will debate that one as the season goes along. We'll be talking about it, I'm sure, on our 6 o'clock show. Well, Squid, I'll tell you, it's that time again, quote of the week. But looks like the Blue Jays listened to us the last 2 weeks. They've been listening to us, Squid. They've really picked their game
Yeah,
up.
they have.
They've picked their game up. They're listening to us. Well, I know they
Yeah.
all listen to us anyway. But now, can someone please do me a favor? Can they send George Springer a video of a hockey player playing hurt in the playoffs? This guy's a real talent, no question. But I swear he gets hurt tying his spikes before game time. George, you got all winter to recover. So, George, we know you're listening. We know you always do. What else you're going to do sitting in the dugout right now because you're supposed to be hurt? So this one's for you. So, George, pay attention to this one tonight. No athlete is tested until
Okay,
he's
hold
cleared.
on, hold on, hold
Ready?
on, hold on, hold on.
Go.
On George Springer, okay, I agree with you on that.
Yes.
But I just read an article.
Yes.
Hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in any sport
Okay.
right now, period.
Yes.
And they went through the science and everything, the round bat, the round ball, 90 plus
Yep.
miles an hour from 60 feet. And I gotta agree with that 100%. I think that's the toughest thing in sports right now is to hit a baseball. If you can hit 3 out of every 10 and hit 300, you're a Hall of Famer. When you think about that, if
Yeah.
you only succeed 3 out of 10 times, you can become a Hall of Famer. Well, if you
I
do
know.
3 out of 10 in any other sport, you probably don't last very long.
You're playing for that team that's on your shirt.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, but again, that's why George was paid $150 million to hit that little round
That
ball.
is true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So toughen up. So here we go. Here's his, and we're not giving up on you, George. We got lots of faith in you because when you're in the lineup, they are a better team, no question. So save your email,
Yeah.
guys, and don't goon me and give me chirps. But anyway, here we go. This one's for all you guys. Actually, we can send this one out to Sid. We can send this to Austin Matthews, and we'll give it to George Springer. We'll do a little trifecta here with the players. So no athlete is truly tested until they stare an injury in the face and come out on the other side even stronger.
That's a very good point, Mike. I'd have to tend to agree with that 100%. Depending on the injury, obviously.
Of course.
You know,
Well,
but
hockey players play with broken ribs.
hopefully George gets back in the lineup and helps his team get a playoff spot, because I think they're a team that, with their pitching staff, if they get in the playoffs, they can do a lot of damage in a best of 5, best of 7, doesn't matter.
Well, and they're getting two good guys back. They're getting Stripling back. They're getting Merriweather back. They're both on the back. Actually, Stripling will be this weekend, and Merriweather's ready anytime. And the way Matz is pitching, Robbie Ray used to be the Cy Young winner. And the rest of the lineup looks like, you're right, it is rounding into form at the right time for these guys, and the bats continue to stay hot. So, George, please read what I just wrote to you, to Charlie Montoya. Write your name in the lineup tonight and get playing. So on that note, folks, we want to thank everybody for listening. Until next week, same time, same place. Don't forget this week's episode of Squid and the Ultimate Leaf Band featuring ex-Leaf Dave Hutchinson. He'll have some great stories for you guys. I guarantee you'll love them. Drops Friday at 6 p.m. Good night. Enjoy all. Enjoy the week. And you know what? Let's end on a good note. Go Jays, go.